Thank you for joining us. For the next 30 minutes or so, we will be looking at a recent initiative from iReach, looking at researching new, younger and potentially harder to reach age groups here in Ireland. It's an initiative we launched last year. For those, hopefully most of you, if not all of you, know iReach. We're a full market research agency based here in Blackrock. And we have been building our own research panels over the last number of years. We have a consumer panel which has almost 40,000 adults as members, and we have a business panel which has 9,000 members. And we use these panels for all our own research, be it surveys, focus groups, so across qual, quant and digital. However, we have built a range of specialist panels, including mums with infants, and these panels we're going to introduce you today are youth and our tweens panels. So we're going to start with so in terms of how we run research, most research studies will be adults only, so 18 plus. However, there is a growing demand from brands, particularly in the FMCG sector, to really start understanding those younger age groups, both in terms of their shape and makeup. As we see here, they total just over a quarter, or just under a quarter of a million young adults in Ireland, and you can see on the map of Ireland how they're distributed, and also you can see the split in terms of genders. But a lot of focus is also in terms of their educational position as they evolve through second level education into third level education. And these are our future decision makers, and many are decision makers in their own right currently. So we really want to try and understand their consumption of media, social media, and I think it's one of those key trends we see across the Irish marketplace when we look at device ownership. So 95% of youths in Ireland have a smart device, a smartphone, 86% have a laptop. And interesting, when we ask them about access and use of TV and television for watching TV content, 37% use TVs in terms of consuming TV. And why is that important? A lot of it is important when we look at advertising and media campaigns, which are really trying to understand and engage with different age groups, different cohorts and different audiences. And a lot of money is spent on TV advertising, but if your target audience don't watch TV, then you have a really major disconnect in terms of how you engage with this audience. We want to look at across the age groups of youth, males and females, how do they consume content, and particularly apps. And really we see no surprises in terms of both males and females consuming music apps, in terms of how they download and use and consume music, which we'll see in a little bit more detail. Fun apps, very similar in terms of trends, same for communications, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail. And you see two big differences between the genders. 52% of males are regular or actively use sports apps compared to 10% females. And then the flip side of that is we see 39% of females who are actively engaging with fashion apps compared to 12% of males. So no particular surprises there, but sometimes it's good to see the stats clearly identified from this younger age group. One of the most important areas for us is how we track media consumption. So where are they watching TV content? So we asked on what devices or where do they watch TV? And we see 36% are consuming TV content on their smartphone, 20% on their laptop. So nearly 2/3 of TV content is watched on devices which are not TVs. Only 34% of youths in Ireland are consuming TV content on a TV screen. This is highest amongst males, so we see twice the amount of males are more likely to consume TV shows on a TV compared to females. And then we see that females consume more TV content on their smart devices when concerned. So again, as a media, or those that are considering media activities, TV advertising, you can see a huge difference between how males and females are consuming TV content. We took a quick view just for reference to see how this splits across the country in terms of urban and rural splits. And we see that males consume, 71% of males consume TV content on TVs compared to urban areas as low as 32%. So even the type of audience, urban, rural, is significantly different in terms of how it consumes and how males particularly consume media across urban and rural. And we see less differences across females when we consider urban and rural perspectives. But it's really interesting view in terms of the 71% of males in our youth cohort who consume and watch TV on a traditional TV screen. Obviously, we know that streaming is growing all the time. I think this week Netflix announced they have a 250,000 subscribers in Ireland. When we look at the youth cohort, we see 82% are using Netflix to watch TV shows and movies on. So there are paid services. A significant proportion who use non-paid services such as Putlocker, Watch Series and Daily Motions, particularly for consuming content on their smart devices or PCs. We look at time spent on watching TV shows. And again, the profile is quite similar. Males watch smaller amounts or shorter periods of time watching TV shows. Females spend a little bit longer. When we work out the averages, males in our youth cohort spend about 110 minutes watching TV on average per day, compared to females who spend an average of 1.5 hours. So 150 minutes consuming TV content. So on average, they consume more TV shows and more TV content than males on a daily basis. We wanted to understand media. Obviously, radio advertising is hugely important. And again, everyone would assume that radio is a really strong medium to reach youth in Ireland. However, we see that 89% listen to music on their smartphones, smart devices, and only 3% are listening to radio content on a traditional radio. So really it's accessing smart devices, which is hugely key from an advertising or media perspective. We look at what apps they're using to consume or listen to music. So again, probably no surprises for most people, Spotify as the dominant app for downloading and consuming music amongst youths here in Ireland. But when we look at how that compares to Apple, across Apple iTunes and Apple Music, 23% use those apps for music compared to 76% who use Spotify. Other hugely popular apps are PlayTube, which provides access to videos, particularly running on YouTube. Again, we looked at averages in terms of how much time is spent listening to music. And again, you can see the profile here being almost identical, and the average time spent on listening to music is just a little over 100 minutes for both males and females. So almost identical profiles in terms of how they consume and how they listen to music. We then try to understand in more detail social media. Most of us would have grown up with Facebook, and there's still quite a big proportion of youths in Ireland who use Facebook at 87%. We've seen in the last couple of years a big growth in Snapchat, which is hugely popular. And I suppose the stat that really surprises us, the amount that use Instagram, which is a much more visual way of sharing information and content and images over more traditional social media platforms such as Facebook. So 92 are regular users of Instagram for social media, highest amongst females in the youth cohort of 96% compared to 83% of males. One of the interesting areas we asked about why they use social media, and we see two key trends coming out of this particular analysis. At 65% using social media for entertainment, followed by 38% that are using social media for watching videos and watching video content, TV content, and so on. And then the more expected view of social media usage, to keep in touch with family and friends at 51% and to communicate with others at 53%. So you see a big difference in terms of how youths in Ireland index against other adult cohorts, where the use for social media of entertainment is significantly higher and the highest amongst this particular age group. We asked about how long are they connected to social media. And I suppose that one of the, and these are people who are at, later stages of secondary school, early stages of third level education. 47% are connected all the time throughout the day. Highest amongst males at 53% compared to 43% of females. And I suppose certainly I would have expected it to be the inverse or the other way around in terms of females being connected on social media all day long. Highest in the morning and in the evening and late at night. So again, a fairly normal profile you would expect in terms of social media consumption. One of the areas we're also trying to uncover is how do the youth cohort in Ireland engage with brands? How do they see brands and how do they look at brands, which are quite different to how we would have consumed and looked at brands over the last, 20 years ago or 10 years ago when we might have been in this particular age cohort. In this question, we asked their number one essential item, and probably no surprises here. 72% see their phone as the most important or the essential item that they own. Highest amongst males, 85% compared to females at 67%. Laptops, personality traits, and other attitudes, interests in music are significantly lower. Media and many advertising agencies and media planners and buyers spend a lot of time trying to understand influencers and how important are social influencers to the decisions that we all make in terms of attraction to a brand, purchase consideration, and so on. So we asked our youth cohort what type of role models do they follow or would be of relevance to them. Highest amongst celebrities, actors, models, and so on at 53%. Family and friends at 35%. And then what I think is really interesting, social media influencers, 19%, which are on par with teachers. So you can see that social media influencers, those that are stand out and really make a living in terms of being blogging or creating content on YouTube, are not as of interest or not as followed as frequently as those influencers might like to take or might state. We ask about the influence of role models. 53%, so a slight majority say role models have little or no influence on purchases, which leaves obviously 47%, which say they do have an influence, and 35% will say that they definitely have an influence on brands that they purchase. So the role model is important, the influencers are important, but it's trying to understand what, from a youth perspective, actually is an influencer or a role model that will impact on their purchase decisions. We ask about the attributes, so what stands out for them as a role model, what do they look for? And I think this is really interesting. 67% or 2/3 look to confidence, an equal amount look to intelligence, reliability, and success. So the confidence and intelligent ones are maybe we don't consider or aren't standout compared to success, where a lot of influencers or role models we perceive what people want to be like. It's all about money or success or being popular. And I think the confidence and intelligence are really interesting trends and attributes that our youth in Ireland consider as really important for a role model. This is really interesting in terms of we ask where or do they follow role models or personalities. Only 24% say they don't follow brands or personalities on social media. 23% follow a brand and 18% follow a brand and follow a personality, and then 35% follow both. So again, you see that the influencers, while they don't state that they're hugely important as a brand influencer, those celebrities, those role models, and those personalities can have a huge impact on and are very popular and being followed on social media by the youth cohort. One of the key findings from our perspective is what channels influence what channels do they use to follow influencers or brands or personalities. And again, you can see that the strength of Instagram coming through. So 47% will use Instagram to follow brands or personalities. Again, it's visual. It's very popular amongst the youth group. It's very popular amongst females particularly. YouTube, we know, is becoming a hugely important focal point for brands and personalities. Again, it's content, it's video, and it's highly believed and highly trusted. And then Facebook, while again is less popular as a choice of social media for youth themselves, it's a hugely important influencer and a hugely important channel to follow influencers amongst youths here in Ireland. We asked the question on, how strong or how much of an influence would social media or celebrities or social media personalities have on a purchase decision. 24% say it has a high impact on purchase decisions. So in terms of what a brand or a personality or celebrity might support, might be a brand ambassador to, is still quite strong. So even you might feel 24% is not a lot, it is particularly powerful in terms of the indirect impact or the earned impact of social media influencers, of personalities and celebrities in terms of brands and purchase decisions. Just to wind down on this particular section, we did ask particular brands which stand out as their favorite brands, and we see a wide mix, particularly Nike, Adidas, and then a whole mix of others, be it Coke, Zara, River Island, H&M, and so on. But I think what's really interesting is why they have a favorite brand. High quality, maybe not a surprise, but I think the following two are hugely influential. It matches my personality, so 40% rate a brand as their favorite because they feel it matches the personality, and 28% feel it makes an individual or a youth in Ireland feel elite. And again, it's interesting that those feelings or those scores are much higher amongst males, 31% in terms of elite, and 46% in terms of matches my personality. So again, I think they're really standout lessons for those that may be considering campaigns, considering influencer activities, in terms of what stands out for a brand, what those attributes or likability or believability in terms of personalities, and how a brand may make somebody feel. And then finally, which channels or which social media channels have the most important impact on purchase decisions? Again, you can see Instagram, 49% say that Instagram has a very direct impact, a very direct influence on purchase decisions. Facebook, 47%, and Snapchat and YouTube. So again, you can see that common theme of Instagram being visual, being available, being trusted as a key social media site of influence on buying. So that ends the first section looking at youth. So what we're trying to do is then really stream down the ages in terms of trying to understand how younger age groups are being influenced, particularly by social media. So we look at tweens, where we're really trying to start studying and understanding this particular age group much earlier than maybe other organizations would have considered in the past, and really trying to track how they evolve through particularly secondary level school, how they make decisions on education, but also how they're engaging with social media and how they consume it. So in terms of putting a size on this particular cohort in Ireland, tweens total just over 330,000, and you can see there the reasonable split across males and gender, as well as urban, rural. So as you would expect, there's a much lower proportional usage of social media amongst tweens in Ireland. So 45% of those between the ages of 8 and 12/13 use social media on a regular basis. Highest amongst females in this age cohort at 51% and males at 39%. Snapchat, the most commonly used or popular across both genders, 57%. Twitter, tiny proportion. You can see Instagram already amongst this age group coming out as one of the stronger social media platforms, even compared to the youth group, and a significant 78% would see and use YouTube as a social media platform. And this is where we get, you know, the huge growth in popularity of YouTubers, where YouTube is seen as really a strong source of being able to follow celebrities, to engage with celebrities, where they might be digital and online celebrities. For this particular age group, bloggers and YouTubers are seen as really strong role models and influencers for this particular age group. Again, probably no surprise, a tiny proportion use Facebook and Pinterest as well. Device ownership is quite interesting. And again, as we track this age group over the coming years, we'll see smartphone usage grow year on year. Currently 39% use or own a smartphone on a regular basis. Again, a high proportion of those using iPads, so it's likely that they're sitting on the couch or at home accessing content in a shared environment on an iPad, a small amount of laptop computer usage, and a high proportion, particularly males, 65%, using games consoles. But I suppose what we're trying to understand is really map the usage and how much time is spent on these type of devices, and over time we'll start understanding in more detail the type of media, the type of content they're consuming. So they spend an average of 84 minutes on the phone, highest amongst males. Use of tablets and iPads, 144 minutes, highest amongst males. Computer time, highest amongst males. Console time, highest amongst males. And TV time, highest amongst males. So you can see this particular age group, the males are consuming so much more and spending so much more time on technology devices. But again, you see for both age cohorts, use of the TV at a much higher level than the youth group we looked at already. We're trying to understand decision-making amongst this age group, and we asked who, I suppose, in essence, who holds the purse for some shopping decisions amongst tweens here in Ireland. So 37% of males feel that they are the ones that have the most influence as a decision maker in terms of the choices and products they might buy, and a much lower proportion, 28% of females believe they hold the power strings or the purse strings in terms of decision making. And I'm sure there might be plenty of mums and dads on the phone who would have a very distinctly differing view on this, but we do check with parents what the view is in terms of these cohorts. But we also ask then, are the parents the decision makers? Males, 55% say the parents are the main decision makers in terms of influencing the products they buy. And again, a higher proportion, 63% of females. So maybe they're a little bit more realistic in terms of who owns the purse strings in their particular household. But I do think it's interesting to see, and as we track over time, when the decision-making trigger changes from the parent into the tween, into the youth as they get older, as they move into third level education and move through the educational system. So just to finalize this part, again, it was more a case study. So again, apologies for those that may not have much interest in the food business, but again, we just wanted to kind of take a checkpoint and start understanding how tweens particularly consume food throughout the day. And I suppose one of the areas that we were really trying to understand a little bit more effectively was, I suppose, the differing attitudes to foods and I suppose eating habits across the week when maybe the children are going to school, and then at weekends, how does that shift or change? So again, these slides will be available if people want to see them, so I'm not going to bring you through them in massive detail, but again, just shows in terms of the differing food choice at weekends and weekdays. And maybe if we look at, I suppose, eggs and pancakes, maybe parents or the children have a little bit more time in the kitchen, can have a bit more fun in terms of cooking. So again, it's a little bit more cooked food and a lot less cereal, porridge, toast. So those kind of healthy foods, slow energy release foods that get us all through our working day, or in this instance, through the school day. We're trying to really understand how food is consumed differently across the week and weekend. And again, this slide probably doesn't tell an awful lot in terms of how we or how food is consumed, apart from the fact that we do see things like burgers, pizzas, maybe more fast food or less healthy food you might consider are more popular at weekends. We look at particularly the next slide, we'll see a big jump in terms of consumption of pizzas at weekends. Pasta is pretty much the same, potatoes and so on about the same, and vegetables a lot lower. So there's no doubt that we see, at a very high level, a much more healthy eating regime during the week, the school week, and then it changes to be a bit more treat orientated at weekends. We'll also look a little bit just at snacks at the weekday, and again, plenty of good news in terms of fruit and sandwiches during the school week, and then again it kind of flips a little bit at weekends, where we see a big jump in things like chocolates, crisps, crackers, and so on. So again, there's no doubt that there's a clear change in consumption patterns across the school week and at weekends for this particular youth group, this particular group of tweens. And then the final couple of slides, just looking at consumption of drinks. Again, lots of water, cordial, milk, and so on. And again, if you just look at those bottom two figures for fizzy drinks, 11%, and fruit juice at 11%, when we look at weekends, we see a big shift in terms of the consumption of those products. So fizzy drinks jumps from 11 to 30%, fruit juice jumps from 11 to 37%. Amongst females, milk jumps as well, water and cordials are pretty much the same. So as I said, we do see some significant jumps in terms of weekend and weekdays. And that was just kind of I suppose, the tip of the iceberg in terms of these new initiatives that we are working on. We hope to continue building out our specialist panels and particularly tracking these younger age groups as they move through both education, secondary and third level, and then into early stages of work and into their careers and being, your targeted decision makers at home, across financial service decisions, grocery shopping, and so on. So that wraps it up from us today. I hope you found it useful and interesting.